What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the WiseTake NBA Wise Stream. It is Monday, December 2nd, 2019. We are approaching the last of 2019. Joined by the GOAT, the true OG, Paulie D. You can find him on Twitter at Paulie with 8 Ds for those of you joining us on YouTube who may not know because you haven't experienced the greatness of a WiseTake WiseTake membership. Paulie, what's happening, bro?
What's happening? It was a good holiday weekend, and we back on the gridiron with a ugly little Monday slate. It's just the combination of teams. We only have a couple games even into the 220s in totals, and it's a dirty one. It's dirty. It's ugly, but sometimes those can be good. We'll find out. But we got to do what we got to do.
That's right. We got to do what we got to do like everybody else. And you're right. It is a dirty one. It's a real dirty one. It's like I don't like it so much that I almost like it because of how dirty it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. Like, it could turn like it could turn real chalky if certain news comes in, and some of that news is going to come in because I think some of the news is for some of the early games. But it'll be interesting to see how this slate ends up. Like right now, it's like the pricing. It's like kind of tough. It's pushing you more balance, but things can get real chalky if some of the value opens up. We have a lot of injuries. Real quick before we dig into the slate, those of you who are joining us on YouTube, we appreciate you joining us. This is the Wise stream we normally do for our premium subscribers over at wisetake.com. Doing a little promotion, we're doing it for free just to kind of show, how we can help you. And so if you're watching this, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Never know when we are going to decide to do something like this. And we do all kinds of free content anyway. So subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications bell. And if you could like the video while you're here, it's much appreciated. It'll encourage us to do more of these. So hit the like button. With that said, Paulie, we got a lot of injuries. So I'm going to go over some of the injuries right now. We've got, let me see. We've got Jonas Valanciunas, who's questionable. He missed yesterday completely with an illness. Frank Nitti had a sore back. Started the game 7 minutes, only got 7 minutes total, and he had to leave. Couldn't finish the game. He's questionable. Aaron Baines was probable. He's now questionable with a calf strain. Cam Reddish is questionable. Alan Crabb is doubtful. Bogdan Bogdanovic is probable. Satoransky probable. Chandler Hutchinson was doubtful, but he has been actually ruled out. So we have quite a bit of injury news. The Valanciunas news, the Baines news, the Nitti news, even at this point, the Crab and Reddish news can really, really turn this slate pretty chalky if it falls the right way. What are your overall thoughts? Are any of these things are you like? I guess how are you going to prepare to go into it without the news?
Yeah, without the news, I want to try to get Stars and Scrubby because that'll be a little more contrarian, and I think, some of the stars on the slate do have high ceilings, like Trae Young and Giannis Valanciunas. Even in blowouts, I think those particular players are the reasons for the blowouts, and they probably post some of the higher scores on the slate, give or take, a double overtime game or something like that somewhere else. And, when the value's not as obvious, there still are plays that'll go that 6-7x at 3 to 4.5K. You just got to get a little more creative, take a little more risk. And with 125 teams or whatnot that I'm throwing out there, I would like to design half of them at least in that style if we don't get any obvious value, because I think that'll be a contrarian build and give me the highest ceiling. But it'd be a lot easier to build balance builds where I'll probably look to kind of game stack a little more, so I get a little correlation that way instead of just kind of doing what the rest of the field is doing.
Yeah, I completely agree. I like the game stack strategy. You could just say ignore whatever happens. I'm going with a couple game stacks, and I think, like you said, if everybody plays, if Nitti plays, if Valanciunas plays, if Bane plays, then like you said, it's pushing everybody more towards a balanced build. That's why we're not seeing Giannis projected for ownership. That and the combination of the fact that they're 16-point favorites is why you're not seeing Giannis projected for 50, 60% ownership, because people are going to have a hard time affording him if they don't have DSJ opened up, if they don't have Bruno or some of these other guys opened up. So with that said, if we get the news the other way, and all those guys are all out, then it becomes a little more chalky. You're going to see Giannis's ownership go up. You're going to see Trae Young, Embiid, all these guys who are expensive. You'll see their ownerships go up. So just keep that in your mind as the news comes out and react accordingly, as we like to say. Paulie, we'll go game by game since it's only 6 games, or no, it's 6 games. What am I talking about? We're gonna go position by position. I don't know why I had it in my head it was 4 games, so I was like prepared to do but yeah, we'll go position by position. I think that's better. Let's go with point guards. We got Trae Young at the top. Tell me if you're interested in him. Yes. There you go. Talk to me about Trae Young.
The price is higher than we've ever seen on him. I don't think the field's going to really go there without any value opening up. And, he's, in my mind, like a good game for Trae Young is 55 plus, which, is still going to be 5 and change X if he gets that 55, and anything higher, is just kind of gravy. And, it's Golden State, who's not very good. Both these teams only have like 4 or 5 wins each. I think we all think Atlanta's a little bit better, but they're thin. Like after Trae Young, there's really nothing left. Definitely a candidate for a game stack, with Young being the only really expensive player on either side. And he's got essentially the second highest ceiling on the slate, and it's going to be hard to get to him. So I do have interest in Trae Young because I think he can, he could have like 20 points more than like your Devin Bookers and Ben Simmons and players like that on the slate.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. As of right now, I agree with you. I don't think his ownership would be too bad. I'm looking at various ownership projections, and I'm seeing DSJ creeping up, so people are kind of falling in love with the idea. And it's not even as high as if Frank Nitti does get ruled out, it'll raise. So I think Trae Young is another one whose ownership will raise with that news, depending on how it falls. If DSJ plays, if Joe Val's playing, then maybe it stays where it is, around like the 26 to 30% range, which really isn't bad for a guy at his caliber on a slate this small, an ugly slate at that. It's not like we have a ton of other options, man. Like, it's ugly. So I'm with you. As of right now, I'm looking at around, I would say like 20-ish a Trae. And only because I favor some of the cheaper guys on that team, but I'm with you. I think Trae Young is a guy you need ownership of, and depending on what value opens up, that's going to depend on how much I can afford with teams I like. With that said, Paulie, take me down to I guess we'll call it the mid range. He's the only one that's like really expensive, right? Like,
yeah, yep, yeah. Go down to what, like 5? Yeah. All right. So next guy I'm into is Devin Booker. Against Charlotte, we should see very little defense, kind of an up and down game. Looks like Baines, might miss, and they become a lot more of a transition team with minimal size. Charlotte not having much size either, and Devin Booker, if this game does stay close, has the highest ceiling on the Suns. So a little bit of interest there. Not a ton, though, because Rubio's around. And, I feel like they kind of take away from each other. On the way down, there is Devontae Graham. He's just seems to be the lead dog in Charlotte. And, again, if this game does stay close, goes down to the wire, Devontae Graham's probably having a good game, probably taking more shots than Terry Rozier, probably getting more assists than Terry Rozier, and he's really like only 500 more, so he would be the next guy to have some interest in. I would have like probably half the exposure into Terry Rozier just to kind of hedge and protect. I don't think they both smash very often, so it's like more so one or the other, and I just favor Graham. He just seems to be more aggressive, seems to be the better player. RJ Barrett, if Nitty's out, should get a ton of usage and minutes, which he already kind of gets. 6'3", getting paced up against Milwaukee. Alec Burks, Golden State, Draymond's out. Atlanta turns the ball over a ton. He gets good usage, takes a lot of shots. 6K, it's pushing it, but with Draymond out, he should have the assist upside, whatnot. Tyus Jones will probably be very popular, 5'6", not a great price tag. He's going to have a good defender. I'm not really that into him.
What about on FanDuel at 4K, Tyus Jones?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's better. FanDuel, I would almost be willing to pay more for him than
You're right.
DraftKings because he's a guy who can get 4 or 5 steals and you get extra points for it
I
there.
agree.
So definitely yes on FanDuel 4K. And that's it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna save Booker for shooting guard just because of some of the guys I have him grouped with in my pools. But Brogdon is the first guy I'll address. I think he's projected for one of the higher ownerships on the slate, and I understand it. We love point guards against Memphis. We preach it all the time. I'm just really concerned. I know they say never try to assume there's going to be a blowout, but I'm really concerned with no John Morant and possibly no Jonas Valanciunas. Even with just the fact they don't have Morant, I'm very concerned that this team just went from a bad team to a worse team. And the Pacers, not that they've been great, but one thing they have is a bunch of different ways to score, right? You got Sabonis, Brogdon could do his thing. You got T.J. Warren, you got Lamb. They can score, and that's an issue because Memphis without Ja Morant doesn't have a ton of guys that can score, especially if Joe Val's out. So I'm a little scared. Like I'll have some Brogdon, but I'm gonna try to be underweight, especially seeing as how popular he's gonna be. I told you before the show, Paulie, I'm more interested in the cheaper pieces of that game who have a lower,
Yeah.
expectation that's going to give us a 6x expectation. So Brogdon being popular, I'm going to lower my ownership a bit. I'm a little interested in Ben Simmons, not a ton because he's going to be lower owned, so I don't have to. But that Utah game, after Utah just got embarrassed last night, in a game that they just lost by 40, I expect them to be competitive today. So I expect this game to stay close. It's got a very low total, but I think that's going to keep the ownership down on the game as well. Again, I don't have to be like 30, 40, 50% on this game because it's going to be lower owned anyway. But definitely want to get somewhere around 15 to 20% of some of these pieces. And Ben Simmons could be one of them. Maybe I prefer Embiid at the moment because of the usage thing. But Josh Richardson is still out, so we should see Simmons still benefit from at least a little bit of increased usage. I think
I would bet the over on that game, by the way. Like, that just seems like very, very low to me.
it's got overtime potential, right? Like just as good of a chance as any other game, if not more. It's got a closer spread.
Yeah, I mean, they played earlier this year. It was 106, 104.
Right. I think Devontae Graham at 7-2. That game looks the best on paper. The Charlotte Phoenix game, and I do like the game. Don't get me wrong, but you know me, I don't like to go too heavy on a game that I know ownership's going to be a little higher on, and it happens to be first. It's one thing when people are like zoning in on a late game, and so the early games are overlooked. But I don't think that's the case. I think people are going to play pieces of this game because it's the most attractive, the highest total. So I'm good with Graham, but not like a core play for me necessarily. But I'm going to play some of him because the dude is just playing really well. Rozier's been playing really well too, by the way. They both been playing well, and Phoenix is definitely a team, and two bad defensive teams going at it, and definitely a game I'll have pieces of, game stacks of, but I want to make sure I have exposure to some of those later games as well. Is my point. I want to overreact. If Frank Nitti is out, I think that's a boost in matchup for Eric Bledsoe. Frank Nitti is like, not that he's some world beater, but he'll stand in your way. If DSJ gets the start, I think from a defensive standpoint, Bledsoe can do whatever the hell he wants. And he's a lot cheaper than Giannis. Similar situation we were talking about with Brogdon. If you are worried the Knicks are going to beat him up, then they're going to play well. So somebody's going to play well. And I think Bledsoe is the one that could finish with like a 38, 39. And you're good with that at his price, at least on DraftKings. So, point guard it's kind of spread, and it's interesting because you already can see that I think a lot of these guys outside of Brogdon are going to be somewhat lower owned, like shuffled around, and their ownership is just going to tank if DSJ is like starting and no Nitti. Right? Everybody's going to scramble for those guys. You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting because these guys are already going to be lower on. We didn't really, neither of us really talked about Rubio a ton. I don't love Rubio a ton personally, I don't against Rozier anyway. But like that's just one more guard that's kind of lost in the shuffle. So there are a lot of these guys that are kind of be lost in the shuffle if already, and especially if things open up. Anything in Value Town at point guard? Well, let's talk about DSJ. If do you like him now? Do you like him if Nitty's out? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like him no matter what. I like the way he's been playing when he's on the court, and I expect double-digit shots. I expect 5+ assists, and He's just too cheap. Even if Nitty plays, I think he plays 25 minutes. And, he could score 25 in 25 minutes and be 8x, or he could go for 40 in 35 minutes. So I'm playing Dennis Smith no matter what. How much, I guess, will dictate what other value opens up and, Nitty's situation.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I got a similar approach, right? Like if we get if he's starting, I'm gonna have a lot of him, right? You have to, because you want to at least be somewhere around the field, because he's gonna skyrocket to like 40-50% ownership at least. And if you don't have him and he does the dirty, he 10x's at his price, it's hard to recover from. If Nitty plays, I'll have some, like you said, so I'm gonna play him regardless. But if he does play, I'm looking a little harder at DeAnthony Melton as a potential pivot, especially because I'm already looking at that game like it's got blowout potential, and in a type of blowout, Melton would definitely get a chance to go out there and run. He played really well too, in that last game. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday for Memphis. So like that's the difference right now. I kind of like, I'll probably have them about the same. Whereas if DSJ is the starter, I'm just gonna raise up and just like I won't play much Melton at that point, because I don't think. I'm not that I'll lower him, but the ratio of how much Melton I have to DSJ is going to be drastic. Do you like DeAnthony Melton at all?
Yes, I do. He's just good. Like, he's a good ball player. I think by the end of this year, he'll probably, have like a solid backup role on this team. He's a good defender. He can get you peripherals like steals and blocks, and when he's gotten minutes, like, he's contributed across all three of the main stat lines. Like, he can score, his assist ratio is high, and he gets involved in rebounds as well. And at 3-4, right, like, there's multiple paths to success. There's just, he plays 25 minutes and does what he does with them, or their game blows out and he gets additional run. And I think because he played well yesterday, he will play some more today.
Yeah, no. I think that makes sense. Before we get deeper into Value Town, like one guy that's on the cusp of Value Town is Kai Bowman. We'll talk about Burks at shooting guard, but Kai Bowman specifically, do you have any interest in him, being that Draymond is also out today?
Not really. I mean, I get it. I think he's all right, but I don't think he's got those 40s that he showed us early in the year. He's just been more timid, even, with Draymond off the court. And I don't like him at 5K. If he was like under 4, then maybe. But like at 5K, you need 30 plus, and it's hard for me to bank on that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I prefer Burks. We'll talk about that at shooting guard, but depending on how heavy you go on Burks, I think Bowman you may have to grab some of, because I think if Burks struggles, Burks going to get the first crack. You and I talked about this earlier. He's going to get the first crack at it, right? He's the veteran. He's supposed to be here. Bowman just kind of got lucky and fell into an opportunity. If Burks struggles, then Paschal's obviously going to do his thing regardless. But as far as the guards go, if Burks struggles, then Bowman's going to really get an opportunity to take more shots if he's playing well. So I'll say that. With that said, I'm not like crazy about him either. Just a guy that I'm looking at. Depending on how much Burks I go, if I go 30% Burks, maybe I'll have 15% Bowman on teams without him, something of that nature. Now let's get into the rest of Value Town. We got guys like Chris Dunn, who started in that last game. We've seen them. The Shaq Harrison, that experiment's done apparently. He's not even in the rotation anymore. But Hutchinson is still out, so they ended up starting Dunn, and he played well in his first game. Any interest in him? And after that, talk to me about any other point guards you may be interested under 5K.
Yeah, I am interested in Dunn. Hopefully he gets ruled in as the starter once again. But even if so, I think they'll, with the Shaq Harrison experiment over, I think you'll see like Satoransky play more 3 and Dunn come off the bench if not starting and get close to 25 minutes. And against Sacramento, without a true point guard, like, turnovers should be aplenty, and that's kind of like where Chris Dunn thrives. And I think, he's got to have some motivation to do well when he does get minutes, because he's got this young hotshot rookie coming in and doing the dirty, and then, he seems to, he was like the designated starter last year at the beginning of the year, and now he's like barely playing. So I would assume when he does get time, he's going to try to make the most of it because he's got a guy like Kobe White breathing down his neck in practice every day.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Kobe White. I do agree with what you said, but I think he's like one of these guys you get the feeling is gonna like get to pick up on those minutes. So like, if you do a similar situation, right? If you do have a lot of done, then do yourself a favor and grab a little bit of Kobe White because that's like the.
I
you
mean,
play them both together.
Kobe
right?
White's much higher ceiling than Chris Dunn, so I'd almost say split those two.
And you could play them together, right? Like you can because it could be Satoransky's game time decision, by the way. So if he's out, all bets are off. It's like, you know what I mean? Like he could just play away. Any other value point guards you like?
Malik Monk, 4,300. He's kind of just like anytime he's on there 4-5, you can kind of fire him up. George Hill, he's 3,800. He's gone for 20 plus in 3 straight games in minimal minutes. Against the Knicks, should be good opportunity for like steal and block upside on top of what he normally does. I think he's a guy that I'd be willing to throw 5-10% on, and if no value opens up, and hope that he gets me that 5.5x and allows me to fit Giannis into lineups. We just touched on Kobe White, who I plan to use no matter what. Grayson Allen, 3,200 on Memphis. He's probably more shooting guard, but he played, I want to say 28 minutes yesterday or so, 30 minutes, and went for 22, shooting 4 of 9, grabbing 5 rebounds, no assists, and only 1 steal. He's, I think he was a first-round draft pick, if not first, definitely second, and had a couple big moments in the summer league. Kid can shoot, and if he gets hot, I could see him doing even better. But at 3-2, he's another one of these going to be low-owned value plays that, you just don't need that much. And he also will allow you to get some more upside. So he's one I got my eye on. And, I'm not that thrilled about it, but I will say that Corey Joseph played 40 minutes on Saturday in an overtime game. They seem to be down to like a 7-man rotation, and Chicago plays fast. So, paced up, should get minutes. It's kind of the formula for DFS. So I'm all right with Corey Joseph a little bit too. You're muted.
Son of this thing always does that. I press the unmute button, and then it always it fakes me out. It'll work for a second, and then yeah. Let's go over to shooting guards, Paulie. We don't have anybody at the tippy top, so you already talked about Devin Booker. Talk to me about Levine, Mitchell, some of the other guys in this mid-tier. Buddy High, take me down to around 5K.
Yeah, Donnie Mitchell. Like him, Utah got embarrassed. He's their go-to guy. He's the guy that in a close game will take every shot down the stretch. And in good games where he does well, he usually goes for 40 plus at 7-8. You would take that. And I do expect this game to be close. I think Philly's at home. They're a good team. And Utah just got embarrassed. And they're a good team, so they should return back to form. Zach LaVine in game stacks. Feels like most of the profit is kind of sucked out of him, but we know he can go for 55 plus in the right game environments, and that's kind of why I said game stacks. Because I don't think he's getting that ceiling unless it is a down to the wire game or double overtime kind of game. So he's kind of a game stacker only guy for me. Buddy Hield's a yes. 7-1. There's just more meat on the bone there, and with Fox out, he's just getting good usage, taking a lot of shots, and the Bulls don't really play much D. do we take a shot on Chris Middleton at 57? Like, I feel like the minutes aren't quite there, but one of these days, it could be today, he's going to go play 30 minutes again, and then it'll be too late. Like, maybe I sprinkle like 5% of Chris Middleton into my lineups today. And then Dylan Brooks, 5,200, higher than I like to pay for him, but I'm expecting close to 20 shots with no Ja Morant and probably no Joe Val. So 20 shots, 25% usage, 5-2. That works for me.
For me today, the plays. I was talking about Devin Booker with you earlier. I think him, Zach LaVine, Donovan Mitchell are all pretty interesting. They're all similarly priced, all in pretty good spots. None of them stand out more than the other to me. So I think like even for Mitchell, like again, he's one of the Utah players, and I'm looking at it. 7-8 is not a price I love to pay, but he's hogging the usage over in that team. And Josh Richardson's out, so you have an opportunity to take advantage of what would have been a tough matchup and which should now be a lot softer against a team that's played good defense. So I think I do like Mitchell. I do like Booker. I'll have around 20% or so of each, maybe 30% of one of them if something stands out to me. Talked about Graham. LaVine as well, just for ownership's sake. I think his price is kind of out of control. He's probably my least favorite of that bunch just because I think 7-9 is kind of high. We understand the usage. He's been playing really well lately. But maybe more of a game stack scenario if you have a couple teams that have a lot of kings or something of that nature. Buddy Hield's taking a ton of shots. I think he's interesting. So is the Kings as a whole. I kind of like for that. If you're going balanced, the Kings make for a really nice game stack. Kings and Bulls, I should say, because of the pricing of everybody. He's not my favorite king, but he's taken 20-something shots a game. Ever since Bogdanovich got hurt, he's been playing, but ever since he got hurt with the hamstring, we've seen Hield, Barnes, Holmes, some of these other guys step it up more, whereas before he was doing a lot of the dirty work. So I think him and Bogdanovich, they're both worth having some. Today, I think Jeremy Lamb at 6,300, again, one of the Grizzlies that I prefer a little bit more. I think Lamb, we'll talk about Turner and Warren. These guys have a lower 6x expectation, so I think it's more likely, even if the game does get ugly, they still have really good matchups and they have a better shot at giving you a 6x return. If Frank Nitti is out, I like RJ Barrett a little bit more because I think he'll play more point guard. Barrett's not really known for his threes. That's kind of how you attack, but I think he may facilitate a little bit more if Frank Nitti's out. If Frank Nitti's in, I'm not terribly interested in him. Alec Burks, probably a guy I should have talked about a point guard. I kind of skipped over him, but I don't know if he's still small forward on FanDuel, but either way, Burks on DraftKings at 6K. He should be the go-to option as far as facilitating the offense with Draymond out. He's 6K over here. He's playing Atlanta, pace-up spot. Again, I like him more than Bowman. I know you do too, Paulie. If you are playing a lot of Burke today, just make sure you have some Bowman just in case because, if Burks does struggle, we've seen games where this guy's shot like 2 for 16. We've seen it. And if that happens, someone else is going to have to pick up the shift. Last guy I'll mention here. I know this is a position that's actually like somewhat deep enough because not a ton stand out to me. Oh, we're getting some news here. It looks like Aaron Baines has just been ruled out. So we'll talk about that at power forward, Paulie. But Aaron Baines has just been ruled out. Last guy I'll mention is Glenn Robinson. Just going to get a lot of minutes. And, he's going to shoot when he needs to shoot. No Draymond. So it's going to be kind of more of a free-for-all type game. Golden State mid-tier guy is also interesting. Take me down to Value Town.
Value Town, baby. We've got another Nick here. 2 Nicks, really, but mainly Damian Dotson, the guy I think they want to play and who can get very hot and then has shown us 40-point ceilings in the past, and he's like 3,300. You also got Wayne Ellington, who's more of like if both Nitti, Morris already ruled out, but if Nitti gets ruled out, Knicks do get kind of thin at guard, and I could see them giving him some run, and, he can get hot as well. And whichever one's hot will probably close between him and Dotson. I think you can get like 15% of Dotson, like 5% of Ellington, and kind of be covered there. We have Cam Reddish and Alan Crabb, both questionable. Waiting on that. If like one plays and the other doesn't, then the one that's playing I would like. If they're both out, then we got to probably look at Evan Turner and DeAndre Bembry, who's back under 5K.
It looks like
and
Cam Reddish, Bembry, they're all expected to play. So the only one is Crab. Crab's the only one that's doubtful with an illness. The other guys were all cleared recently.
All right. Did they say anything about Cam Reddish's minutes?
They didn't say anything about his minutes, just that he's available to play.
Okay. I'd probably be willing to take a look at Cam Reddish then at 3,500, especially if Crab's doubtful or gets ruled out.
Real quick, I'm sorry, Paulie, but Frank Nitti officially ruled out, Alan Crabb officially ruled out, Bembry available, Cam Reddish available. That's where we're at.
Okay. So, yeah, Cam Reddish, 35. He's a value play. Another one of these fringe ones that won't get much ownership that I'd certainly be willing to take a shot on. The two Knicks that I just mentioned, now that Nitalina's out, like our for sure guys I want to take shots on. Furkan Korkmaz, 4,100. Not that attractive, but the minutes and the usage have been pretty solid with, what's his name? The guard out. Can't think of his name.
Richardson.
Yeah, Richardson. And I think that's it. I mean...
Yeah. I'm with you. There's not a ton I like down here because I like a lot of the stuff we have up top. And on DraftKings, some of these guys like DSJ or some of these guys, Chris Dunn, they're also shooting guard eligible. So we've already covered a lot of the guys. Let's go over to small forwards, Paulie. Talk to me about Big D, a.k.a. Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to get as much Giannis as I can. Again, like I said, I'd like to get some stars and scrubs lineups out there because I think they'll be contrarian. And I think, Giannis against the Knicks in the Garden and not in the Garden, but Giannis against the Knicks, and then like Trae Young against Golden State have opportunities to be very nice ceilings at lower than average ownership for a 6-game slate. So I certainly will have some Giannis, and we'll see how much. I mean, now Dennis Smith Jr. is chalk as shit. So his ownership just went up, but I still plan to use him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the only bummer is the ownership went up on DSJ and now on Giannis because more people are going to be able to afford him, and it's going to go up a little bit more if Jonas Valanciunas misses. It's already there because there are guys who are going to take that chance and play Bruno at like 20%, 30%. DSJ, they were going to play at like 30%. Now, DSJ just went up to 50, 60%, which means Giannis went up from 40 to 50, and if Bruno does open up, that goes from 30 to 50. You can expect Giannis to rise to around 60%, which is, on a normal slate what he would be projected. It's just they tried to make the pricing a little bit stricter. One other guy I'll say for shooting guards that I forgot is Damian Dotson. He's a punt. It's scary. You don't know if it's going to be him today. You don't know if it's going to be, Trier. You never know. It's the Knicks roulette, But we know that DSJ should start, and if he starts, I'm with you. I still like him. I'm still gonna have to play a good amount. But I'm with you on Giannis, man. Like the ownership, I was looking at around like 30 to 40% before. He's got the highest ceiling on the slate without question. I know he's expensive, but as some of this value opens up, there's no excuse not to grab a good chunk of it when he's got the potential to just like ruin a slate. He does it like every other slate. He ruins one. So I'm with you there. Talk to me about the other guys. Take me down to 5K.
Yeah, so, we touched on most of these guys, but Kelly Oubre in that Phoenix game, I think you can pair him with Booker, preferably pair him with Rubio or on his own, and just another piece of that game that I like, probably a little bit lower owned than the other pieces. Jabari Parker against Golden State. We like bigs against Golden State. Usage has been really good since Collins went down. That game, the closer that game stays, the better he probably does. TJ Warren, him and Lamb feel like the same guy right now. I think I prefer Warren. But I think I'll just get a tad of both. Harrison Barnes, that's another Sacramento player in the mid-tier that I do like. Dario Saric, 5'9", but Baines just got ruled out. He's going to get center minutes. We've seen him get like 17 rebounds in a game without Baines there. Charlotte's terrible at rebounding, so we should see ceilings in the rebound category and decent night in terms of scoring as well. And then we got Eric Paschal there at 5'6". I certainly like him when Draymond is out. Excuse me. Jay Crowder balled out yesterday. Same guys are out. He didn't even really shoot well. He shot 4 of 11 and went for 31. So, probably got another 10-point upside if he does shoot well and just going to get a lot of minutes. And I think that's it. Yeah.
Yep. We talked about Simmons and Hield. I agree with you on Oubre. The usage certainly goes up. Point per minute value goes up for Devin Booker and Oubre, both with Baines off the court. There's a couple other guys that I think I'm a little into more on that team, but they certainly become more viable. They're just, you're paying pretty much a fair price at this point, which is solid to get some tournament exposure. Jabari Parker has a very soft matchup. Atlanta's playing like 4 different people at center. They got Damian Jones. They've got, but Jabari is one of them. Right.
And
that's the point.
Fernando.
Yeah. Alex Len. And Jabari is one of the guys getting work there. So Golden State, it's a nut matchup for centers and bigs in general. Jabari is like one of those hybrid kind of players. Should be playing a lot of 4 today against Atlanta. So I do like him for tournaments as well. I think that you talked about Lamb and Warren. Talked about Bogdanovich. Talked about a lot. Barnes was a good call. Barnes has been playing really well. Like you said, another 6K guy. That's why I think the Kings are like perfect for game stack. The Kings aren't as fast as they were last year. They don't have De'Aaron Fox right now, but it's better for usage. First of all, Fox has definitely absorbed a lot of the usage, and either way, they have like a very soft. Bulls are playing a little bit faster. Number 1, which is good for them, and number 2, just no defense. So I think the Kings make for a pretty good team to stack if you're looking to do a mid-range deal. Then Eric Paschal, you also mentioned 5,600. I like him a little bit more on DraftKings, I think, because he's not going to really take away too many other guys. On FanDuel, you get 2 power forwards. There's one that I really like more of a personal stance for me that we'll talk about at power forward. But in the meantime, on FanDuel, it's too loaded for me to go too heavy there. But on DraftKings, I'll have a good amount of Paschal for sure. I do like him there at 5,600. I'll talk about the other guys at another position. Paulie, take us down to Value Town before we move on to power forward.
Yeah, not a ton. We covered a couple guys already, like Damian Dotson from the Knicks. But James Enos, Philadelphia, guy's been playing really well. Same situation with Richardson out. 3,800. I'll take a shot on that. Cameron Johnson's 3,600 for Phoenix. Another sneaky little value play. He does have a tag. It says illness, game time decision. So something to keep an eye on. If he were to get ruled out, then Bridges would become an option. Bridges on Bridges in this game. Miles and what's his brother's name? Mason
McCall.
Bridges? McCall. Yeah, McCall Bridges. $3,200, Solomon Hill. This guy almost never does well, but I did notice he played quite a bit yesterday for Memphis. 26 minutes, went for 21. Another fringe value play to take a shot on that got minutes yesterday. That's it. I don't really see much down here.
Yeah, it's ugly. The only guy I'll add to that list, it's ugly. Like, you can do it. These are all guys that are viable in play, but they're all guys with really low floors and could ruin your night if it goes wrong. So, adjust ownership accordingly. Kevin Knox is another one, right? He should start for Marcus Morris. He started yesterday, both halves, only got 21 minutes because they ended up playing Dotson, some of these guys over him. But, it's a hot hand approach. One thing Knox does do, he doesn't do it well, but one thing he does is he does shoot threes. He usually takes a lot of threes because he stands there and just whiffs it. That's one of the only ways you can really score on a really good defensive team like Milwaukee, because they collapse and all that fun stuff. So Knox is the only guy I'll add to that list. It's not pretty. But it's there. Let's go over to power forward, Paulie. Talk to me about the guys over there. There's no spend. We talked about Giannis, so there's no real spend. I guess Sabonis. Take me from Sabonis down to the 5K range. What would do for me today? The plays.
Yep. I mean, I'm fine with Sabonis. You're not going to get him most likely with Giannis or, like Trae Young, but he is cheap enough that you could actually, use him with just like a more of a mid-tier build, which is like maybe like one value play added on. He's fine, like Memphis is down 2 bigs, so they don't have a ton of size. The size they do have could get into foul trouble. So he'd probably be my favorite Indiana Pacer at this point. And, I'm just concerned about the game staying close and him, maximizing his value. Like, I think he'll start off great. I just don't know how he'll finish. So, he's like a 15 to 20% exposure guy for me. That's the plan at least. After that, just a second. My thing crashed. Julius Randle, that's a standard play for me every day, but with Marcus Morris out, the shot should be aplenty, and if he shoots well, like he shot terribly yesterday and went for 33. If he shoots well, sky's the limit, really. Like, we could see 50 plus, and you kind of want bigs against Milwaukee, and the first Lopez is already out, so it's, one big already got it there. They really only have Robin Lopez and a bunch of forwards and Giannis, so Randall is in a pretty good spot. I will use him quite a bit, as I do every day. Already talked about Jabari. Rajon Holmes, 6,500 center against the Bulls. That's just pretty automatic now. Jaren Jackson, 6,200. Foul trouble is a concern, but if he doesn't foul out, usually has a pretty solid game. Bogdan Bogdanovic, another 6K Sacramento King. That is certainly in the mix, as well as Bjelica. Added Lauri Markkanen. I don't know what's up with Lauri Markkanen, but that's gonna be it for me. Down to 5.
Yeah, Sabonis is obviously a really good situation, a really good spot. I'll have some as well, but not gonna go crazy because, like I said, I'm into like the cheaper ones, like the Lambs and even Turner. Who are cheaper. I think Randall's a guy for tournaments that makes sense. If the Knicks do keep this game close, you would have to think he's going to have to be a big contributor, like you said. Milwaukee, Randall kind of does. I mean, his usage without Marcus Morris, it's got to run through him. All the Knicks should get a boost for as long as this game stays close. We talked about a lot of these guys already. Richaun Holmes is probably one of my favorites, like as far as tournament stands go. Like, he's not an optimal play by any means, but he does fit that mid-tier, game script. The mid-tier balance build, game stack kind of thing. Bulls are terrible against centers. Richaun Holmes has been getting minutes in the 30s. The last game was an overtime game, so I understand it may be an outlier, but still, I think he gets like 26, 28, maybe even 30-something minutes, and it's against the Bulls. Just a phenomenal matchup. So I do like Richaun Holmes quite a bit. He'll be one of the players that aren't optimal that I'm taking more of a stand on. I'm going to play at a fairly high exposure. Wink, wink. And then now, Paulie, we got you talked about Saric already at small forward, but him and Kaminsky, we can use this to transition into Value Town, but him and Kaminsky now both of them, one of them, Saric has been playing better at center. Kaminsky's gotten his crack when Baines was out. He didn't look good. So Saric started getting more center minutes. Diallo got some time. Now we have no Diallo, we have no Baines. These are like the only two bigs they have on the team, basically, or at least as far as guys who are actually in the rotation. I know you mentioned you like Saric. Do you like Kaminsky also? Do you like one of them more? Do you want to play them together or only separate? What do you think?
I like Sarge much better, but I do want to play them both and mostly separate. I think they're cheap enough to play together if you're game stacking, but I think they really like one takes away from the other the better they do. And say Sarek gets in a little foul trouble, then Kaminsky's minutes increase, and if he plays well, maybe he closes instead of Sarek, or vice versa. But I don't think they're going to correlate much to the upside. I think they're mostly going to take away from each other. You're muted.
Fuck. Definitely makes sense. Sarge has been awesome. I'm definitely going to play Sarge. I like Kaminsky a little bit more because of the fact that Diallo's out. They're not going to have a choice. They have to play Kaminsky 30-some minutes. And this happens to be a revenge spot against Charlotte. And, like, Kaminsky is just, like, he's 41 on FanDuel. He's, like, 44 or something like that on DraftKings. So I love them both. I'll play them both. I may have a little bit more Kaminsky because he's cheap, so the expectation's lower. And I just don't see a way around them playing him. Unless he gets into foul trouble, which is definitely possible. Either one of them can. But I agree. I'll play them a little bit together. I'll play them a little bit separate, but mostly separate, I think. I think I'm with you on that. With that said, any other value power forwards?
Yeah, we got another revenge spot. Amari Spellman versus former Atlanta team at 4,500. Him and Chris both seem to be playing around 20 minutes off the bench. They're both kind of viable, but what's his name? The Golden State coach Steve Kerr is like known to like play his guys against their former teams. He did it with Jordan Bell in Chicago last year. He's done it a few times, so I think I would lean, because neither of these guys are that exciting. Like, I don't even think I will play any Chris, and if I did, it'd be 5%. But I think I'll give Spellman like 10% run and just not play Chris. He's 400 cheaper, get the little narrative, and he's truly the better big. Bobby Portis, that's kind of interesting. How did he play yesterday? 21 minutes, 21% usage. Yeah, Bobby Portis at 43. I'd be willing to take a shot, right? Like, he hasn't played well in a while, but he will shoot when he's on the court. There's a potential for a blowout run if they get smoked. And, he'll probably get some center minutes against, like, Robin Lopez, which he should do fine with. So Bobby Portis, another one of these fringe value plays that are on the slate that you could take a shot at. Ersan Ilyasova's 4K. I don't really love that. He really didn't see an increase the first game without Brooke Lopez. Really, Robin Lopez was the main benefactor. And then we saw DJ Wilson get decent minutes. So he's an option. DJ Wilson's an option. I think I favor Wilson. I just think he's got the higher ceiling and would get a lot of run and blowout run, where I just think that they would rest Ersan Ilyasova in that case. So nothing too exciting down here, but some of those plays are worth it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Spellman Revenge, I'm with you. Like 10 to 15%. Why not, right? Why not? He's going to get the minutes. He's already in the rotation. But aside from that, the other value seems a lot more concrete, seems pretty firm. Take us over to centers, Paulie. Give us the rundown of centers, starting up at the top.
At the top. So we got Joel Embiid. Cool with him. 10-3, we don't really usually like centers against Gobert, but I feel like his defense has taken a little bit of a decline this year, and there's really three studs on this slate. Embiid will probably be the lowest owned, and he's in the game that is most likely to be close. So have a little bit of Embiid. I mean, there was a 3-game slate the other day that he was on. I think it was Saturday. He was the guy you needed. He was the stud that went for 55, and if you played him, you did well. Don't really like Rudy Gobert, but I will say that price is down, and he should get a ton of minutes. Um, I will have some shares of Miles Turner at 5,700 today. I don't really like playing this guy much, but this feels like the right spot. Memphis without Joval, without Clark, a foul-prone power forward in Jaren Jackson, and we forgot Bruno at power forward value, but I think he's center, so we'll talk about him in a second. But yeah, Miles Turner I actually do like quite a bit today from Indiana. Mitchell Robinson, I'm just kind of committed to right now, but with Morris out, could mean a path to more minutes for him. He has been struggling with foul trouble the last few. If he can avoid that, we've seen this guy go for 50s before. He's got multiple block upside. Maybe he's got blowout run potential today if that does go that route. I just mentioned Bruno Caboclo, main price. He balled out yesterday, and the same scenario today versus a weak rebounding team. Give me min price Bruno for sure, and that's really it though. Center is actually pretty thin for what it usually is. Oh, Damian Jones too, another revenge spot. This time a former Golden State Warrior on the Atlanta Hawks. He's probably going to get the start. And, we love centers against Golden State, so how about one with a little revenge in mind? And then what do you think about Robin Lopez at 4-4 versus the Knicks? You going to go there again?
Yeah, I'm not terribly interested. I mean, if I ended up with like 15% or so, I wouldn't be upset. But the Knicks, that's the one position, that's one position the Knicks have been really good against, the center. So I'm not terribly interested. Yeah. I mean, we went all in on Caveman because he was 3K and in a nut matchup, right? Like, this is a little bit different. He's not min price anymore, and we have other guys who are min price. So fuck them. You know what I mean?
Like I like Bruno way more than
him. I completely agree. I'll have some Embiid, one of the guys from that Utah game. Like I said, 15-20%, nothing overwhelming, but that'll put me enough over the field, I think. I talked about Sabonis. If Joval's in, I think the usage is great, but the price is up. He's been sick, and Indiana's got two bigs down there, man. It's just not a great situation. When one of them is out, it becomes a lot better. When they're both together, it makes it difficult, I think. Gobert has had good history against Philly. 7-4 on DraftKings is not a bad price. I'll have some of him, but like Paulie said, I'm not like jumping off the charts or going crazy to play him. If Joval is out, we talked about the Jaren Jackson's, that situation. They're just going to be really thin. Jaren Jackson could get into foul trouble. Last time he saw the Pacers, he did, but he played well. In like 22 minutes, he smashed. He just only got 22 minutes because he got into foul trouble. And I'm worried that we're going to see the same. With that said, if Joval's ruled out, I will say Bruno is a guy you got to get some of, man. He had a great summer league. Anytime this kid's gotten a chance to play, he's just looked awesome. And he's still extremely cheap on both sides. So I'm just going to throw that out there now. Aside from that, Paulie, I think you did a great job covering. We don't have a ton of guys. It's not a massive slate. Last thing, I'll leave it on this. I like what you said about Miles Turner, especially if Joval is ruled out. If Joval's in, I just kind of like him because he's cheap. If Joval's out, it becomes a great matchup because without Clark, without Joval, this team becomes very, very small. With that said, that's going to do it for the position by position breakdown. Nation, those of you subscribe to WiseTake.com, if you're watching from the Wise Stream page on the website, we'll take your questions, get them in there now, if you have any. In the meantime, Paulie, we'll do some top threes, and then you and I got some content to finish. My Core Plays article will be out shortly. Paulie D's cheat sheets will be out shortly. Plays for me today. Paulie D. We'll go top three guards, forwards, and centers.
Dennis Smith Jr., Donnie Mitchell, and Devontae Graham.
Yeah, I'll go with DSJ as well. I'll go Alec Burks, and I like the Donovan Mitchell call, man. Let's go to forwards.
Julius Randle, Bogdanovich from Sacramento, and I do like Saric. Dario Saric.
Yeah, I'll go with Eric Paschal, Frank Kaminsky, Giannis. If Valanciunas gets ruled out, then I think Bruno goes to the top of the charts for both of us, right?
Yeah.
Let's go to centers.
Yeah. Embiid and Miles Turner and Bruno Caboclo.
I'm gonna go with Rashawn Holmes. I will go with Joel Embiid, Rudy Gobert. If Joe Val is ruled out, I would put Turner like second on that list. Show for show. All right, let's see if there's any questions from the nation. TJ Nookie 85 says, "Who is jumping off the page that you want to go crazy on? Like, I guess the top stud."
Top stud. I mean, I'd like to get plenty of Giannis. He should smash, but Dennis Smith Jr. is really the one that's jumping off the page now with the Frank Nitti out.
Yeah, playing 38 minutes yesterday. They're already missing Elf. Yeah, I would have to agree with that. The price on both sides is just crazy low. So, yeah, I agree. It's about who you use him to get, and it's hard not to use him to get Giannis. Dropping sevens, doing dirties. That's what we do. I don't see any other questions. Guys, do me a favor and hit that like button for us. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Other than that, I think it should be an interesting slate. It's getting a little more interesting by the minute. Be on the lookout, Nation. If you're in the Slack, you get updates for the injuries. Be ready to react. Be looking out for the content. So a lot of it's up. Paulie D's cheat sheets will be out shortly. My core plays article will be out shortly as well. Paulie, anything in closing before we get up out of here?
Good luck tonight, Nation. Do the dirty.
Do the dirty. For Paulie D, for myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always, good luck.
Yeah.